Hi, Zach Bassett here with COS Accounting and Tax. I'm doing another video in conjunction with my Compounding Interest podcast. Hope that you guys like them. Please leave a comment below if you want a video done on something else. I'm trying to make sure I hit as many things as possible for you guys. So yeah, I got to know what you want so I can do it. This video is going to be on how to track expenses. We want to make sure that if you're doing door-to-door sales, whether it's in the summer or all year long, or if you're doing direct sales of any kind, you're able to track those expenses in the right way. And I'll give you some good ways to do that. You definitely want to, if you're doing door-to-door, this one's going to be more related to people doing door-to-door. So this is going to be kind of a perfect breakdown for you. But if you're not doing door-to-door, it's really easy to see, okay, that's how they do it. I would just need to add in these different categories. Not a big deal. Easy to transfer from one to the other. So first things first, I would say the main thing that you want to track is going to be your mileage. So we'd go, mileage is awesome because you get to take 58 cents per mile. That changes each year. Normally it goes up a little bit. But 58 cents per mile adds up really fast. If you've got 10,000 miles, obviously that's a $5,800 expense. That's going to lower your taxable income by $5,800, which is really nice. So make sure you track that. I would use the app Quickbooks Self-Employed. I'll put it right up here. So it's Quickbooks Self-Employed. You want to make sure that you're getting the right app. There'll be a QuickBooks Online version and then a QuickBooks Self-Employed version. If you're single member LLC, S Corporation doing door-to-door or something like that, you want to do QuickBooks Self-Employed. It's going to be the easiest app for you. You'll be able to download it on your phone. Anytime you get a new expense, say you go out to eat at Chick-fil-A, you're going to get your receipt and you're going to take a picture of it and then log it into the correct area. There'll be different, obviously different categories for you to log it into. Once you log it into that category, it's going to learn. So next time that you go eat at Chick-fil-A and take a picture, it's going to know where to log itself. So that's really nice. You're not having to lug around all these receipts. It kind of makes your life a little bit easier. So I recommend, as long as you take a picture of that receipt and get it logged in, you don't need to keep it. But if you're one of those guys that wants to be extra safe, you can also keep the receipt, just throw it in a shoebox, mark it 2020, and put it away, in case you get an audit. Now, I think I've said before, audits are really rare. If you're structured correctly as an LLC taxed as an S corporation, your audit risk is going to be next to nothing. I've had 0 audits in over 15,000 S Corp returns over the years. That's extremely good, obviously. And if you don't have an LLC S Corporation, you've got to do a Schedule C. Your audit risk goes way up. So there's a lot of benefit to doing the LLC S Corp. I recommend watching the video on entity structure, figuring out exactly what you need to do for your business, then making sure to structure it correctly. So number 2, we want to make sure that we're tracking rent in the summer. For you guys that are out of state working for the summer, you want to track rent. If you're in state and you're doing solar sales and you do it all year long, you're not going to track rent because you can't take rent on your own personal home. There will be a home office deduction you can take. If you get your taxes done through us, we're going to put a spot in there for home office deduction or corporate rent deduction. So just know that you will get some benefit even if you're not out of state working. But for you guys in the summer, you want to track it. You want to track that summer rent expense. So home office. And then there's also corporate rent. But we'll take care of that for you. I'll also probably do another video on home office and corporate rent. The third thing you want to track is you want to make sure you're tracking equipment. So this is a big one for door-to-door guys, especially if you're a manager. You're going to have your iPads, phones, computers, Segways, drones, things like that. A drone might be an expense if you use it to recruit with. Maybe you make videos with it, and that's how you recruit new guys. You make a cool drone video of your annual trip that you do with your guys, something to kind of entice them to come and work with you the next summer. Number 4, I would make sure that you're tracking uniform expenses. It's not usually a big one, and also kind of a high audit risk area. So you're not going to want to take every single thing that you buy to wear during the year, including all your suits and things like that. You're going to want to track what you use for knocking doors in the summer. So new shoes, shorts, pants, gloves, hats, things like that used for knocking in, we're going to expense those off. Number 5, you're going to want to take your travel expenses. So we do flights. Flights is oftentimes a big one. This is one where you can get a little bit more aggressive on. If you take a trip that's 50-50 for business and 50-50 for personal, you're going to want to probably take that as a business expense. Now, there are some rules around it. You're getting a little bit on the aggressive side if you take the whole thing, but I think that's a good area to get aggressive. So number 6, you want to also take your hotels. So if you stay in a bunch of hotels or Airbnbs, you're going to want to track those expenses, and we can write them off at the end of the year. And what I mean when I say write them off is you get to deduct them from your income. So if you're at 100K right here, 100K in revenue, and all these expenses equal 50,000, you're now only going to be taxed on 50,000. That's a huge deal. One of the big reasons why it's best to be on a 1099 is that instead of being taxed on 100K, you're taxed on 50K, which is a huge difference as far as what you're going to end up paying. Several $1,000s, maybe 5 or 6, depending on how high up you go. So definitely important. Number 7, we're going to want to track, let's see, what do we got? Oh yeah, recruiting is a big one. You want to make sure that you're tracking recruiting. A lot of you guys, especially you managers, are spending, tens of thousands on recruiting. But either way, if you're spending $500 or $5, track that expense, because now you don't have to pay tax on it. You might as well get the best benefit that you can out of the situation. Now, recruiting has to do, if you take someone out to eat or to maybe a sports event, a basketball game or a baseball game, you're going to want to make sure you track the total cost for you and that recruit to take him out and do those things. Track it all. We're going to expense that all off. Put it under recruiting when it's recruiting related. You should be able to know the difference of when it is and when it isn't. We definitely want to track meals. That's a big one. Probably should have been at the top. But meals it's important to know that you can take the per diem in some situations. If you're out of state working for less than 1 year, you're going to take the per diem. If you're not out of state working, then you just take regular meals. So anytime you go out to eat and it's business related, you're going to track that expense and we're going to write it off. Now meals are only 50% deductible, so you got to remember that. If you have 10K in meals expenses, you're not getting a $10,000 deduction. You're getting a $5,000 deduction. Now per diem is really good because it might be $65 a day that you get as an expense, or if you're in LA, it might be $74 a day. So now you're getting a $74 expense every day, even if you only spend $20 on meals. So it's one way to, really save on tax. Again, you're actually going to be saving a lot more than in some of these other areas if you do it right with per diem. Now, I think that's pretty close to it. Oh no, we can do incentives as well. It's up there with recruiting. It's similar, but maybe it's for your team. You've already recruited them, and now you give them incentives throughout the week during the summer or throughout the week during the year. If you're not summer sales, then you're going to want to track, hey, look, if anyone sells 3 accounts by noon, they get a $50 gift card to Best Buy. You want to make sure to track that as an expense. Incentives can be a big one depending on the person. Normally that's more manager related. But we've also got cell phone bill. So you want to take your full cell phone bill for the year, If you're married, I would take the cell phone bill for you and your wife. It's imperative that you both have phones. You can't really run your business if you don't have a cell phone, and you can't run your home life if your wife doesn't have a cell phone. So you need both. And yeah, that's the gist of it. Obviously, depending on what you do, there's going to be different categories. So make sure that you're thinking about it. You know, if you cut hair, you might have supplies as a big category because you spend a lot of money on hair product and scissors and all that stuff. So just think about your situation and how it differs from the door-to-door or direct sales realm, and then make your own categories. But definitely use QuickBooks Self-Employed. It's the best. There's a link below if you want to download it. Highly recommend it. It's super cheap. It's $5 or $10 a month. And remember, you can deduct that as well. So that's another thing to think about. If you do have more than a single member LLC S corporation and you're wanting to track expenses more in depth, like maybe you started your own pest control company or door-to-door company, you're going to want to get something like QuickBooks Online. There's also a link below for QuickBooks Online. That's going to be a much more in-depth. You're going to get your full system from QuickBooks. You're going to be able to get your profit and loss each month, and it's just more in depth. Once you get to that point, I highly recommend hiring a bookkeeper. We do that as well. So check out the bookkeeping video if that's something that you're interested in. But when you're doing it yourself, make sure you've got one of these depending on what you got going on. Thank you.